What is up, YouTube? This is Kyan Cannon from Arguably Georgia Sports, and today we are going to be recapping rivalry week and taking a look at the rankings. Is that correct?
Yeah, so we're going to go through all these, and lots of crazy stuff happened this weekend. The top two in the college football playoff rankings went down, so let's just take a look at these scores. We're going to start off with the biggest game for arguably Georgia sports, which is Georgia Tech. Now, this game was completely one-sided, wasn't even close from the very first kickoff. Bad call, should have been a safety or at the half-yard line. They called it a touchback.
That was definitely not a safety. He was at least at the half-yard line. I don't know why that was a touchback.
But they were saying that he possessed the ball in the end zone, but people can catch the ball in the end zone and then run out. They're saying, though, he called for a fair catch, but he tipped the ball, and once you tip the ball and don't catch it, then it's supposed to be a fair catch.
It was a weird call.
Yeah.
It didn't really impact the drive overall, though. So.
No, they still didn't make it past the 50-yard line. So that was 38-7.
First half was kind of close, though. It was 14-7 at one point. Tech had all the momentum.
It did, but they still weren't able to do anything against Georgia's defense. Jake Fromm putting up about I don't know the exact number. Let me check on this. I think it was 120 something. 224 yards passing, and then just rushed for a ton like Georgia always does. And then I think the main thing in this game was Tech. They kind of did what they normally do on running. They passed it 9 times and they only completed it 2. They usually complete the passes most of the time.
They beat no, that's not true.
They were all about 20-yard passes.
They beat Virginia Tech going 2 for 8 passing.
Granted, but now they were 2 for 9, so that's a big difference. Not. So there was also the Egg Bowl, huge upset. Fitzgerald, he went down, and he got injured, and I think that changed the entire game. Completely lost momentum, even though Mississippi State. Okay, get this, they were down, right? They were down 24-6, and they managed to get 22 points in the fourth quarter. Almost came back. And we're down 3 at the end.
31-6 at one point. And then Miami and Pitt.
This has got to be the biggest upset of the week.
Oh yeah, by far. But I mean, Miami can't keep playing with these smaller opponents.
I mean, this wasn't even close. But
I mean, Pitt had nothing to lose. They put in like a freshman quarterback who had never played.
But he was good.
Kind of.
I'm telling you, that guy, he was on. 18 for 30 doesn't actually. That's not all that great, but 193 yards, 1 touchdown. Weak rushing though.
I don't know if you saw, but Pitt brought out the upset chain after that game to kind of rub salt in the wounds of Miami.
Of course they did. That's just bad.
But you gotta think, who had that prepared in the first place? You know.
I mean, I bet they made it because they really thought they. Of course, everybody always thinks they're going to make the upset. Baylor, TCU just 45-22. What else do we need to say? Just absolutely demolishing. Kenny Hill was amazing. 325 yards passing.
It's Baylor.
It's still Baylor, yeah.
I mean,
Baylor has been contending with Oklahoma's, but that's just because it's the Big 12.
Yeah, and the Kansases,
Yeah, they're contending with but they still can't even contend with Kansas, so that's kind of sad. They're 1-11 now. Yep, that's the only game that they've won. USF versus UCF. This was a very close game. Came down to the last couple of possessions. I think the main thing was containing Quentin Flowers in the run game. He alone, though, went for 605 yards. 605 yards. His passing statistics, though, he passed it for 45 attempts, and he completed 20. But 24 attempts for 503 yards. That's not bad.
were talking before we started recording, and you disagreed with me that Quentin Flowers carries that team. He does. I mean, just look at those stats.
Yeah, I mean that's they're. I mean, that's it. It's kind of it's hard to say that because you know that it's not always about that one player, but it's that if you have that one player, how to use him the best. And so I don't think it's just Quentin Flowers.
Yeah, but I mean, they're not going to have that player, and they're not going to be able to use him the best next year.
That's true, but they'll have to reorganize their offense and do their best with the other players that they have. Virginia 10-0. This was just a defensive struggle the entire game.
It was a boring game to watch.
Not fun. But Virginia Tech sneaking out with the win. They kind of just disappeared from everything. Alabama, Auburn, 14-26. Auburn pulls off the upset again. Now, Jarrett Stidham was nearly perfect, 21 for 28. Kerryon Johnson was kind of contained. He got 100 yards. And Auburn's leading receiver got 139 yards, which counted for more than half of their passing yards. Just straight to him every time. They're going to need to focus on him more because Kerryon Johnson's obviously going to be out. Or if he does play, he's just going to get hammered on the line by like Roquan Smith or something. He's not going to have a chance in that game. Clemson, South Carolina, 34-10. This game was never close. The score doesn't look all that huge, but it was not even close.
And South Carolina scored 10 points in the last quarter too.
So then West Virginia, Oklahoma, 59-31. Baker Mayfield passed for 281 yards. 3 touchdowns. Kind of gets boring saying that every single week. Baker Mayfield went out and annihilated. And West Virginia lost.
West Virginia team?
Yep. Now it's Wisconsin versus Minnesota.
Man,
31-0.
What a disappointment for PJ Fleck's first year in Minnesota. I mean, after he was so successful at Western Michigan, I thought he was going to turn this program around.
Well, I mean, it is just the first year.
Yeah, but still.
I mean, if you look at...
Kirby Fart had a better year last year in his first year.
Why must you call... He's one of the best coaches in college football.
McElwain won the East in his first year.
In his first 2 years.
Yeah, you can have success in your first year.
As we already talked about, Georgia Tech. Yep.
I will say this: if there's any
Crompton for UGA, he had 2 receptions for 78 yards. He just came in late in trash time and just.
If there was anything positive about this for Tech, it was that Taquan Marshall broke Justin Thomas's record for most rushing yards in the season. That was set in 2014. So yeah, that was.
You broke a record, you lost the game. Really wasn't even close. Their touchdown was on a completely awful, broken defensive play, blown coverage. That
makes it a bad touchdown?
No.
Okay.
I'm just saying that's terrible play by Georgia. This should never have happened if they can't give Auburn those opportunities. Notre Dame versus Stanford. Stanford just came in the end and absolutely annihilated. I mean, they had two turnovers within the 50-yard line, 2 straight drives of Notre Dame, and they just I mean, those 2 turnovers changed the entire game. Ohio State, Michigan. This was a close game, a fun game to watch, but Ohio State won in the end, and that. See, I wanted Michigan to win this game, and here's why. I felt like
we're going to, too.
Yeah, I thought so before the beginning of the game, but here's why I wanted them to win. Because I feel like Ohio State is getting too much respect. They haven't done I'm not going to say that they haven't done anything. I'm going to say though that what they have done is they have lost to Iowa. They have given up an unranked team 55 points. They have gotten blown out by Oklahoma. they have had an ups and downs season and been one of the most unpredictable teams in the country. And for me, if you lose to anybody 55-24, you should be out, even with one loss.
Well, I think the only reason they're getting so much talk is because people are fascinated to think whether it's possible or not. I mean, you look
People are trying to come up with a possible
I
solution for Ohio State because they're Ohio State,
I mean-
and that is my biggest pet peeve about
mean-
this committee.
I
is
mean-
that they buy into the brand names. They try.
I mean,
claim
why
that they
why
don't,
do
but
you
they
think
do.
why do you think Oklahoma is not getting nearly as much talk? They're a Big Ten program, just as big as Ohio State. Let's be honest, and it's because they are the most likely team to be in the playoff officially. Really? Yes. I mean, TCU is probably the worst team that's going to be played in the conference championship. Even though they're a great team, they're the worst.
The one that matters because the Pac-12 is out. But I'd agree with that. So now I was just hoping that Ohio State would finally be out of it and people would just stop talking about them. Although with 3 losses, they would probably still be talked about. Penn State, Maryland, 66-3. Wow.
Yeah,
I mean, against anybody, 66 points is an achievement. I mean, that's 10 more than Alabama got on Mercer, and they're not even a FBS team.
Maryland's just terrible. Penn State's pretty good. And then this next game really made me disappointed in Mike Leach. I mean, he can't win these big games.
I'm thinking that he can get an SEC job.
Maybe, but I mean,
probably not Mississippi State,
it's like
but
it was 41-0.
maybe Arkansas, maybe a smaller job.
I mean, you were losing 41-0. That's insane.
Yep.
I mean, a game you're supposed to win and go to the Pac-12 title. Mike Leach. I mean, I still think he's a good coach, but he needs to find out how to win these games.
Yep. I mean, it's a rivalry game too. I don't know how you can call this next one a rivalry game. A rivalry game. Sorry, it might not be one. Michigan State, Rutgers, 40-7.
Rutgers actually had a surprise season this year. They won
4 games.
3 more games than they were expected to. So, I mean, that's a win.
Texas A&M against LSU, 45-21 in favor of LSU.
And Kevin Sumlin was fired.
Yeah, I felt like he did a pretty good job at A&M. They have.
Before him, they had nothing.
Yeah, and same thing goes for Dan Mullen, except Dan Mullen left by himself. But I feel like Kevin Sumlin is a great coach, and I hope he gets a job somewhere else.
Was it Texas A&M? Texas A&M was Kentucky.
And now they're expecting championships, and you're not going to get that at Texas A&M. I mean, granted, they spent $250 million on their facilities, but you're still not going to get it.
I mean, and they're in the same state as there's 3 other huge big-time programs. You got Texas Tech, Texas, obviously, and TCU.
Yep. I mean, it's hard to recruit when you have 3 other good teams like that. And last year, Houston was good too. Now, Oklahoma State demolishing Kansas, that was expected. Kansas has 1 win, and Oklahoma State just did what they were expected to do. 58-17.
What about Mike Gundy to Tennessee? You think that's happening?
I hope it happens. I would love to see. No, here's what I want. I want Mike Gundy to go to Tennessee, and I want Mike Leach to go to Arkansas.
Listen, I don't think Mike Gundy should go to Tennessee. People talk about, he can restart there, but why would you go to that dumpster fire of a program when you have a pretty good area? I mean, you're pretty good where you are right now. I mean, they didn't meet theyexpectations this year, but they're still a good program.
Yeah, I mean, you still have to play. Tennessee is always a bigger program than Oklahoma State.
Anymore. Not now. Tennessee, it's not since like 10 years.
It's easier to recruit there. You're in an SEC school.
Did you say it's easier to recruit in tennis in an SEC school?
Yeah.
Are you insane?
Except, granted, they are close to Texas, but there are lots of schools in Texas that are good football teams.
What are you saying? Are you saying that it's easier to recruit in the Big 12 or the SEC?
SEC.
Really?
Yeah, you've got Florida, you've got Georgia, you've got Alabama. all great recruiting schools.
You've
I
been
mean,
battling
sorry.
against each other.
Yeah, so I mean, this year was a huge drop-off year, and so now it's going to be
They are the best recruiting conference by far.
Yep.
And you're saying
exactly.
that it's going to be easier there? No. So much more competition there. That's what I'm saying. Especially for a new coach.
I think if Mike Gundy goes there, then he's going to draw some attention, and he's going to draw
not that it
players.
matters, but
And also,
it's sharing a state too with another SEC
here's a
school.
question:
Vandy, but I mean, yeah.
could Fitzgerald maybe go to Florida? He might transfer.
No chance.
What about Jacob Eason going to Miami?
That's not happening.
Mark Richt recruited him.
Yeah, I know. Jacob Eason wants to go to the West Coast, so he can run that kind of offense. I think he either goes to a Washington school or USC or UCLA if Darnold and Rosen both leave,
He could go to UCLA.
or USC if Darnold leaves.
I think he would like to play under Chip Kelly.
Yeah, that would be interesting.
But he's only played under conservative coaches, so maybe he'd want to go somewhere else. Okay, we're taking this too long. Memphis, Eastern Carolina, 70-13. Just not even close. East Carolina sucks. Let's just say that. Northwestern Illinois, not Northwestern Illinois,
The
but
biggest-
Northwestern versus
the
Illinois,
biggest
42-7.
Illinois rivalry. Even though
And
half
Boise
the people-
State, Fresno State,
upset. Wow.
28-17. Fresno State,
And
who is now
they're-
ranked.
They're playing each other now, and they get to play again in the Mountain West Championship.
Boise State plays Fresno State. There are lots of rematches this year. TCU, Oklahoma, Fresno
Well,
State,
I mean,
Boise State.
Big 12 championship is guaranteed to be a rematch because they only have 10 teams, so they all play each other. So
Yeah. Yes, and the new rankings are out. Clemson at number 1. I would have honestly put Wisconsin. They're undefeated. Say what you want about their strength of schedule. They're undefeated. They didn't lose to Syracuse. They didn't. They didn't lose to. They didn't lose to Iowa State. They didn't lose to Clemson and LSU.
Yeah, but all those
They didn't lose to Auburn. They didn't also lose to Auburn.
all those games.
They didn't lose to Pitt.
All those games that you said they did. Like, I don't think Clemson lost to Syracuse. I think Syracuse beat Clemson. I mean,
Did
Syracuse.
you see Clemson's defense in that game?
Yeah, yeah, it was bad, but
Deep bombs everywhere.
yeah, but you can also say the same. Did you see Syracuse's offense in that game? They were lights out. Okay, they made some great plays.
I mean, of course you're gonna play your best when you're playing because you're Syracuse. I mean, you're not gonna beat anybody. Last year they beat Virginia Tech. This year they beat Clemson. I mean, that's just if you're a small time school, that's what you try to do. All right, Auburn at number 2. I kind of disagree with this one. I think they should be.
I think Auburn
Here's my top 4. I got Wisconsin, Oklahoma, Clemson, and then Auburn, and then 5 and 6 is Georgia and Alabama.
I got my same from last time. I think Clemson should be number 1, Wisconsin number 2, Oklahoma number 3, and Auburn number 4. And then I think Bama and Georgia are about right. You could flip flop them. It wouldn't make much of a difference.
Anywhere. Well, I think the difference is for Bama. I think they wanted to give them a better chance to make it in. And then we have so 1, 2, 3, 4 is Clemson, Auburn, Oklahoma, and Wisconsin. Alabama and Georgia 5 and 6. Miami at 7. Ohio State at 8. They're really trying to get him in there. Penn State at 9. USC at 12.
10.
10. TCU at 11. Stanford at 12. Washington at 13. And UCF at 14. I think that UCF should be number 11. And
Look, if they win out and win their big time bowl game, they'll be a top 10 team.
yeah, but
Yeah,
whoever
yeah.
they play, they're not going to beat.
I mean,
they play-
Western Michigan contended with Wisconsin last
You know what would be really interesting? A Miami Georgia Orange Bowl.
if there's that would probably be the highest rated bowl game outside of the playoff ever. So I think if neither of them make the playoff, they're going to match them up. No doubt.
Yeah, I mean that would just be amazing. And since Mark Richt was just at Georgia, that would just be huge. And then we have Notre Dame at 15, Michigan State, then LSU, Washington State, Oklahoma State, Memphis, Northwestern, Virginia Tech, Mississippi State still in the rankings, NC State, and Fresno State sneaking in. South Carolina dropped, and so yeah. So I think that's gonna end it up for today. We're gonna try to get another one in tonight, and as always, but not really as always.
But now always. Goodbye.